if we can develop this method afterwards. But let's start with what the project was about. And we wanted this part to be a bit more interactive. So those of you in the room who feel that you know how to work with Excel, please take the top right corner in the room. Okay. So now we will call you data experts / programmers, these tech-savvy people that all data journalists dream to be at one point, like really big experts and stuff. If you feel that you know something about storytelling, that you can decode what data is telling you, then please take top left corner. Here, please. No. Stay here, but there will be a chance to move in case. So all people who know infogram, who know presentation tools, who know something about graphic design, I don't know, like Canva or Photoshop, just take this corner. Okay. It happens, it happens. Okay, so you are also here. Great. Yeah, because sometimes you have more than one skill. So these people here would be multimedia makers in our project. Then, if you care about quality reporting, if you think that it's not enough with he said, she said stories, just create a group there on the right corner or like in the middle around there. Yeah, just change your seats. So we will just call you journalists. And finally, if you care about migration crisis, if you care about human rights, then please take and create a group there opposite the journalist group. And those who are undecided, we still have these 4 roles, so please define yourself. Okay, so human rights activists, did you create a group? Please change your seats. And also those undecided, please also join one of the groups, maybe multimedia. Those who just came, think if you are a programmer or data person, if you are a journalist, if you are a multimedia storyteller, or if you are a human rights activist. So, yeah, just think which role you are, because now, and this is what actually happened in our project. We gathered people from 11 countries who shared those skills among themselves, and they created groups consisting of them. So now, please stand up from your seats and find a person of another skill than yours and form group of 4. Yeah, it's also about communication. Collaboration was a big part of our project. So please stand up, start talking with each other, and form group of 4 representing 4 skills, being journalist, multimedia storyteller, human rights activist, and data person. Those of you who have made group, please sit together and show that if you sit down, it means that you have formed a group. Okay, we see that you start to sit down. It means the groups are forming. Those who are still standing means that you need to find a group where your skill will be of use. Yeah, they need someone. You need someone, Lorenzo. Yes, so 3 or 4 in this case. Those who have just came in, you will be a group of your own. So just sit together. Okay, so now it's time to sit down. Sit down into your groups, sharing different skills. And finally, your assignment is take 2 minutes and discuss which matter about migration phenomenon currently taking place you are more concerned about, you care about the most. And just define, being it crime, being it employment, being it human rights, being it, you know, this topic is very diverse. So I will take time for 2 minutes, discuss the issue you care about in these groups. Okay, thank you. Okay, cool. Okay, time's up. Time's up. Thank you, groups. So now let's see. Let's see what you have discussed. So let's start with this group in the corner. Which issue would you see worth to debunk with data?
Well, I assume, hopefully we could find something on it, but crime, criminality, those sorts of things. So we would start with something like crime, whether we could figure out if the people who were migrants had either committed crimes before or after and that sort of thing. I mean, it depends on what kind of data we could get, but that would be a good place to start.
Okay, thank you. This group here.
Me? For me, the data means a number or statistics. So I would train as a journalist, the newspaper reporting is a kind of human story. We need to write about human story, but I thought the data doesn't describe the human factors.
Okay, we'll show example how these two approaches could be combined. This group.
So we just formed up something like 20 seconds ago, so we are still...
Yeah, but for you.
One thing to debunk with data.
About migration.
Yeah, about migration. One of the... we were just talking about, and one of the biggest stone that at least here in Italy we are listening to, is the fact that a lot of people are saying that they don't want migrants here because they stole work. Okay. So a nice thing could be to debunk that with data.
Migrants steal our jobs. Is it really so? And finally, this group.
We had two ideas here. One was that the number of immigrants or asylum seekers, I think you said, in Italy, that people think it is really a lot, but the reality might be that it may not be as much. And the second idea, which is very much related, is about terrorism, that most people, or a lot of people, have the idea that terrorism is done by immigrants. So that's one thing to investigate, to see if they are necessarily related.
And nationalities. Great. Okay, just one last.
Migrants and crime.
Perfect. Perfect. We see that we really touched upon important topics as a result. So just to sum up, because probably you're a bit confused what exactly we did, let us just show you.
We are living in these weird times where you're basically surrounded by data. You're producing data like all the time. You check your Facebook, you make your Google search. Even just by moving around, Google Maps is actually storing data around you. So I think it would be a mistake not to take the opportunity of it.
Web designers, developers and journalists usually don't communicate much, but during this project we were working together.
When you learn everything in theory and then in a couple of weeks decide to implement it in practice, it's hard. You have to watch more tutorials probably, and here you can get them on the spot.
Journalism is a matter of fact, not only about opinion, so data journalism, let journalism be more precise.
It's important in a time where there's not much fact-checking done.
Based on data, that's make the difference because you bring the reality to understand to the people in a simple way.
I think this is a new power to journalism, the data and collaboration.
Okay, so this is our project in 90 seconds. And just to sum up, you can do a training. You can do a training, learn those skills, learn new tools, see how someone else is clicking on the buttons, but it doesn't make any sense unless you apply it on practice. Therefore, training was just not enough. We added hackathon as a means. So if you learn something, you apply it on practice right away on a very concrete story. And this concrete story is not just something you try out because you're just starting out. We invited media partners, real newsrooms, journalists coming from a real newsroom in Europe to facilitate the process of creating data story, which was started during this 1 week and finalized as we went. So, our results that we are proud of. Ukrainian media, Texty, they debunk prejudice that refugees flee. Actually, sometimes you can't flee. you are internally displaced, especially in case of Yemen, where situation is very harsh, but you just can't leave the country. Spiegel Online, they showed how many human rights abuses could happen if we make it harder for migrants to come in. They more looked into law and how it could impact people from statistical perspective. Latvian media Delphi, they showed how scared we are from people who look differently, who have different religion, at the same time when we have migrants from Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia who look just like us. Vesti, which is Montenegrin media, showed that actually there are no refugees in Montenegro, though the hype was there. Dennik, they created a story debunking migrant crimes and came to conclusion that actually more and more often migrants and refugees become victims than actually criminals. Danish media Mondag Morgen, they showed that migrants are actually creating jobs, and skilled, educated migrants actually are showing tendency of taking higher positions in companies. And finally, investigative reporting media in Armenia showed that actually 90% of Armenians are rejected asylum. So these are our results, and there is one more that I invite Elisa, who is one of the participants here, to tell more and also share experience as a participant.
Well, when I read the possibility to work on migration and on data at the same time, I thought it would be really a mistake not to take advantage of it. So, moreover, it was completely free. So I decided to apply for sure. And I mean, sorry. So how it was to learn there? We were 60 among journalists, web designer, and developers, data analysts, and we were living all together, trying to explore migration through data. We were producing data all the time, but we were not alone, as in each session we got tutorials for very useful tools. For instance, starting with Google, as we starting with Google, we underline how to search for data. And OpenRefine, for instance, which is a more complex tool to analyze messy data, or come to dot. So we study how to scrape data from PDF file or images and from website. But the last session was about how to create the data, so an introduction to DataViz in order to develop our skill using Infogram, Tableau, and for developer using coding too. We learn about data, but also about migration, as data journalism can give a contribution to the migration debate. UNHCR underlined the best way of using data, their tool, and we talk also about Balkan Route and the challenge media coverage of it. So, other interesting session was about the way of pitching our ideas to media partner or to grant. So how it was to work at the training in Berlin. The point is that usually professional journalism, programmer, analysts don't communicate so much be in a newsroom or in other way. But during the DDJ camp, we were there and we were working all together for the same goal. And also it was also a lot of fun to create communication and relationship among different countries, different experience, different ages too. Regarding our project, as there are a lot of possibility to create data-driven stories, we decided to challenge commonplace and prejudices. We started from a question, the question of the group, that was, are migrants stealing our job? And of course, this analysis is important in times when there is not a lot of fact-checking done. But the problem of this kind of analysis is the bias. And, but with data, of course, which means starting with data set, you can be more objective and bring reality in a simple but effective way. Our goal, of course, was that a team from different countries, different ages, in only 1 week was able to publish an article on the Espresso website, which is an important newspaper in Italy. What we create, we analyzed the number of business opened by migrants, and we discovered that migrants create a new job for locals, helping alleviate the recession. And the statistics show also that people, the number of people at risk of poverty, the fact that foreign-born population are consistently poorer than their native-born, and the median income of broad group and the differences between this kind of income. And well, in a few months I published a second data article for L'Espresso on functional illiteracy, and I'm working on other articles for them. So another point for me was that this experience was also a professional opportunity to start in this kind of collaboration. So of course, good luck with the next edition of DDJ.
So I will tell you about our learnings from the project. In this project, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. There has been a lot of efforts to bring together knowledge, how to teach people to work with data. So classic ones are School of Data, for example. They have a data pipeline, which is from finding the data to presenting the data. There are MOOCs, which, for example, is one from European Journalism Center, and several hackathons, boot camps, and trainings that we all have taken. How many of you in the room have taken any data training? Several, quite few. And how many of you found it important in your future work after the training? Did you use it? Yeah, okay. So we basically wanted to kind of adjust existing educative models and to make it work for real life of journalists. So what we thought we just organically adjusted the system and we built the schedule and several learnings that we think were important to repeat. So first of all, share as much as you can. You can put in a pre-competitive space a lot of information. So we start with data. We thought everybody will be using the same data. Of course, they will use different data sets, but we have to create a data pool together. So every participant, of course, had access to that, and he could put data in there. Second, share the information. So it's very important to establish a common channel of communication. Much has been said about it at Panama Papers talks, but we also had our own Slack channel where we could have a common discussion and upload files. Share the knowledge. The dialogue, especially between data providers. On the left here is a person from United Nations Human Rights Agency, and on the right is Nicolas Kaiserbrell from Migrants Files. So the dialogue between people who work with data, who create data, is very important, and that you can ask for them in the first hand when you need a question, you need an answer on your question. Then share the stories, something that journalists usually don't do, but in the middle of the training, we had a feeling that people are not sure if they are moving in the right direction and they're actually applying the skills in the right way and if the story is going to result in something. So we just arranged on the spot this pitching session, and teams had to present their hypothesis and how they're going to prove it and which data they're going to use. And they had questions from the audience, and it really helped everyone to understand they are moving in the right direction. And then share experiences, and the magic of offline meeting is very important. And I put bacteria there because it was in November, and when we came in the beginning, we had few people with a flu, and in the end we had few people without a flu, which is okay. Then make it fun. We didn't think about it in the first place. We just were thinking about the program and how we make the training, etc. But then at some point, first of all, we used a community support, which was really a way to show that data journalism is also a big supportive community, and the trainers provided us skills for free. For example, this is Nicolas teaching us Open Refine. This is a live bar chart. This is how we learn the difference between the mean and the median with people from open knowledge. This is a visit to data newsroom in Decide, so you can see that this is working in cool newsroom and this is maybe a place you want to work. This is a hackathon, also known as Seal Colony. They spend the whole day lying in different poses and, you know, trying to finalize the project. So one more learning for us. Next time we will definitely provide more tables for them. But I think it was very rewarding for us as organizers to see that they engaged in the stories. So it became their stories, not us teaching them something and they are just going home with some presentation on the computer. And also make it fun in the direct way of this word. I have to adjust the sound. So yeah, there was, we were looking for some video we could show you without being embarrassed. Basically, at some point we thought, they are so charged with data, they couldn't even think anymore. And we said, guys, today you don't work anymore and just make some party and we will dance with you. So that's what we did, basically. How do I go out? Sorry? No. Okay, and then let it go. That was very important moment in the training, because however you love the training, you have to give it to participants. You have to allow them to break things, to, you know, do something differently, to participate in the program. So what we had was, this is one participant organizing Python for Dummies spontaneous session, because we thought it's a skill gap and we want it to be covered. Another participant said that he is a statistician expert, so he will be a consultant. And it's really great to see that today you explain them that Jon Snow is not only a character from the Game of Thrones, and tomorrow they are calling to their statistician office to ask if the data from 2015 relates to 2015 or 2014. So, you know, they are coming over what you give them. And then we put everything online. So we put all the schedule and all the training materials online. And we just want this training to be one more step in our common effort to build data literacy in the world. And it wouldn't be possible without European Youth Press. So Martin will tell us more about it.
Thank you, Anastasia. And thank you all for being here. I'm glad to see you. I would like to at first introduce our organization, which is called European Youth Press. The full title is Network of Young Media Makers. And we are umbrella of 26 member organizations, not only in the European Union, but also beyond. I will show you our map with the members. Yes, so you can see that we have members in Western, also in the Eastern Europe. And that was also one positive aspect of our project, because we were able to bring together young journalists and other media makers and designers and developers from Eastern countries like Ukraine or Armenia, as well as from the Western countries like from Germany or Denmark. And I heard from some journalists, for example, from France, that in their country it's not that often, because the journalists there are not that much interacting with the journalists from other countries. So that was also one of the added value of the project, I would say. I wanted to talk more about like the next steps, which were also mentioned by Elisa when she said about the DGJ Camp 2. Of course, we are now thinking about how to make the next event, which might be not that big as this one, because 8 days was quite a big project, and also often you will not get the funding for such a big project. But we have also some ideas how to make some small workshops on the same topic, and where we could also apply the same approach. One of the options is the European Youth Media Days, which is one of the biggest events for young journalists in Europe. And one of the next editions will be in 2018. And there we can propose to European Parliament that we would like to make the session on data journalism. So that would be one option for follow-up. Of course, it's also important in projects like this to not make the project just for itself, that people are gathering, they are making some products, but then they are not published. And one of the great aspects of this project was that the articles of the participants got to real media, to also often to big media in their countries. The other option, how to keep the project alive after its lifetime, after the participants are going home, is to provide them some sort of blog or other opportunities how they could publish their articles. It's often hard because it's more difficult to inspire and engage people before or during the project than after the project, because they feel that they wouldn't like to do it or they don't see any incentives. But to tell them your stories will be published, maybe one of those incentives which could inspire them. Of course, such a project is also important for organization and organizational memory as such, because also we as the organizers are learning something. We weren't doing so many projects about data journalism in the past, and I think it would be also pity if we would make just the one and then there wouldn't be any others. So actually this year, we are implementing the project which is on reporting corruption. And one part of it is also the data sets which will be published online, and then also the Google Maps where people will be able to put instances of corruption in their countries. The website is now in test mode, and I realized that unfortunately it's not working. But then we have the other project, which is dealing with the EU justice and EU law. To be concrete, it's the judicial activities of Court of Justice of European Union. I don't know if some of you are interested in law. Are here such a persons? Ah, great, at least two. So here you can see the cases which were processed by the Court of Justice of the EU in different years. And the problem is that, of course, they are publishing some data sets and some annual reports, but it's only in PDF. So what I did in 2012 was that I put it all together in one big Excel sheet and then on the map. And the new EYP project should be the enhancement of this one. That it would be updated, and there would be also some innovative aspects, like to make some interactive graphics and make it more interesting for general public, but especially for students, because to be honest, law is sometimes very difficult to understand, and maybe through visualizations you can understand better how the countries in the EU are involved in judicial activities. And to come back to the reporting corruption, it will be similar map, and people will be able to put instances of corruption in their countries or in the cities or even to the street where they are living. And they can also choose different color of the dot depending on the case of corruption or type of corruption. And there will be also possible to create the links between different types of corruption. So if we have a case of corporate corruption in country A and then the second one in country B, and there is some link, for example, personal link or corporate link, that the international company is involved in corruption cases in two countries, then you can create a link between those two cases, also in different colors depending on type of that link. And the last project I would like to present you is called Youth Meter, and it's so-called forward-looking innovation project supported by the European Commission. And it's dealing with the EU strategy and how different member states are dealing in providing opportunities and good conditions to youth. And it consists of several parts. One of them is this one. It's the Youth Development Index map. And you can see how different countries are dealing with the youth and whether they are giving them good conditions regarding employment, cultural activities, education, etc. The greener it is, the better score there is. The more red it is, the worse the score is. And interesting is that sometimes you can see that the countries, let's say in the Balkan, are red, but the capital cities are the green. So here you can usually compare different regions. Then you have the dashboard, where we are putting visualizations of data from Eurostat and Eurobarometer. And again, you can download those pictures, you can put it into your websites or into your articles. And you can also compare your country with other countries. Then there is the map of good practices, which is also very important. As I said, often there are projects which have no follow-ups and they have no real impact. And if you click on their on links to their websites, let's say on the portal like Salto Youth, on some other portals of European Union, you can see that the websites are broken or that there are no data. But on this map, you can find only the best practices, and the indicators on how to measure good practice are taken from the European Commission. But we are also working on our own indicators in order to include the projects which are not only supported by European Union, but also by Council of Europe or by some national institutions, because they are also important. Then you have indicators measuring different conditions of youth, so they are demographic, again, employment, etc. And the second are the youth preferences. So we had the study groups, and there we made our own researches, how they are feeling, how the countries are dealing in this field. And the last point, because I see that I'm running out of time already, there are two important points in the youth meter. One of them is that the goal is to not only show the visualizations, but also to show what all you can do with data, how you can visualize it, how you can use the maps. And now it's just about EU strategy, but there is no reason why you couldn't use the same tool for environmental issues or some other ones. And the second case is that we are using the data not only for journalistic purposes, but also for advocacy. So the goal is to provide young people the opportunity and empower them to take part in decision-making, on evidence-based decision-making, and use the data to change the local realities. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So this was our project in roughly 40 minutes. If you have any questions, we are happy to answer.
Hi, I have one short question. Did you approach the media organizations before or afterwards? Because like you got some really big institutions.
Yeah, so we approached them in advance, and we reached to editors who we knew, or in case of Slovakia, we Googled the most liberal media or left-wing media usually, or innovative media, so we thought they would be interested to tell quality reporting about migration, and either we reach them through our network, or I just found them through LinkedIn or Facebook, and then I say, are you interested in this project, and can you send one reporter for 1 week? And I was surprised, in the positive way, because they were okay to send a reporter for the whole week.
Any other question?
Or maybe comments, because we're kind of in a constant thinking process how to, increase data literacy, how to be better data journalists ourselves, and that it is not just kind of elite data news team in several best media, but it is a common knowledge.
How much work did you have to do? There was grunt work, so hard work by journalists manually doing things in spreadsheets, versus, can we do some software to do this? And how much did you experience, if we had someone who could build a thing that could OCR some PDFs and generate some data for us that would be useful? What was the experience like? Was it a manual process or a mixed process?
I'll try to answer that. The most work was done in Excel, basically, and it was a descriptive statistics, so we used I think the magic happened when we combined two different data sets. So, for example, crime and migration, and they could just, journalists could see if it's growing or decreasing. So it's not like we needed really to work with hard data, because we just were exercising our work with public data. In the other case, we received PDF from Danish Statistical Office, and we were thinking already about OCR, but one girl had like proprietary software on her laptop, so we did it. And yeah, we definitely think that next iteration of data journalism is when you run data through some pattern, or you establish some connection between entities in the way that isn't possible just by looking at data. But we haven't reached yet there because it was quite introductory level.
So is there a new session being prepared, or what's next? And all those people who were together, are you still in contact? I guess so.
Yeah, so currently we are seeking for a way how we could scale this project and make more efficient. So if you have any feedback, just come to us and let us know. We are not doing the very same thing, but we think that connections that could be created during this project and skills that could be transmitted from one person to another through such experience could be scaled. So this was very first attempt to mobilize through method that mobilizes people, but in the same way the project could take a form of a forum where you can find people more easily and do data project not only about migration but any other relevant topic.
So it leads me to another comment. I can see that in the United States they have the NICAR list where everyone is sharing every day lots of things, and I don't know if something like this exists in Europe. I really don't know. I don't know of something like that, and I think we need it.
It's a very good question. I think there exists a mailing list supported by Open Knowledge Foundation and the European Journalism Center. So it is data-driven journalism at OKFN, I suppose. The thing is that it's not so active and it's not so nitty-gritty as NICAR. So I think even European journalists are on NICAR list when they have to discuss something. And I also think the differences that we have in our countries in terms of law and in terms of language probably are preventing us from discussing somewhere altogether. But I'm looking forward to hear what you think, why we are not discussing it as actively as people on NICAR list do.
I think mine is to commend you for the great work. I remember when you went to Germany for the camp, and there was just some bit of excitement and energy towards this. So I'm just, first of all, a comment would be like, any chance to scale it up to Africa, or even open it up for African participants, especially the passionate data journalists from Africa?
Well, I was actually going myself to Africa for a Code of Africa for Africa bootcamp. So they are doing this work. So, and Internews, they are doing this already. So.
So congratulations on getting so many people from so many different countries together. But that made me wonder. I mean, I'd like to see more of that. But I think what might be prohibitive is that it's usually quite expensive to get a lot of people from different countries together in one place. So how did you manage to do that? Did you have travel grants? And if so, what was your selection process? Because I assume you had more applicants than you could fit.
Okay, I can also answer that. Yeah, so the grant was Erasmus Plus, which is Youth Mobility Grant. And we used it to create a training. So the selection process was based on the countries that were partnering countries, and thanks to EYP, which is a network of organizations, we could have like such big portfolio of countries, 11 of them. And we could get 5 people from each country. We also had to ensure that we have all the skills represented, and gender equality should be there. And then we also looked, of course, on motivation, and participants pitched the stories that they would like to work on, and then we also matched them in groups based on their interests. So there were many categories that we had to match together and create synergy in the groups and ensure that all the skills are represented and that it actually works out. Yeah, very, very big thanks also to media partners who didn't give up. And by media partners, I mean representatives who were sent to the project. And I think one of the aspects that made people to like stand by the very end was the community that we managed to build through those social interactions, maybe after the training and during the work, which I think was a big part of why people continued to work even after the training, after the, I don't know, vacation or in Berlin. Yep. Anyone? Yeah, Martin.
I would add some details to it. So it was the key action 1, use exchange, and there you have 2 budgetary categories. One of them are travel costs, so the travel costs are fully covered if you are under a certain limit. So for most of the countries it's 170 euros. And then you have organizational support, and by organizational support grant you can cover the rest, like the food, the accommodation, the trainers, etc. So in our case, the money from one grant were enough. If you want to make the bigger project and provide the participants maybe better accommodation, maybe much better venue, then you need a co-funding as well, because usually Erasmus is not covering the 100% of the costs. There was also one question about like the discussion among journalists, if I understood it correctly. Previously, why the journalists are not discussing. Yeah, there is one platform which is more famous in the United States. It's called Hackpack. I don't know if you know that platform. It's like the network for journalists where you can log in, you create your personal profile, and organizations or like the media can also create their profiles. And then you can communicate either with those companies, with those media, or with other journalists. And the media, if they have some experiences with you, they can also rank you, so they can give you some recommendation. And you as a personal journalist, you can also pitch the story or the topic. And then the others can contact you, or you can also create the fora, and there you can discuss it. It's actually what we will be doing in the Reporting Corruption project, that journalists which are involved in the project or those who are from outside, they can join our forum. We of course have to moderate it and give them permission to come. And yeah, as I said, it's now running mostly in the United States, and the company which is running that platform wants to implement it in Europe, and we are one of the partners. So I can just encourage you to create your profile in Hackpack and be active there, and maybe you can find some interesting colleagues.
Okay, so thank you very much. We were happy to share our experience. At 9:30, we invite everyone to data drinks, because everything should be data, right? So yeah, let's talk. Let's talk how we can scale it up, how we can have more data-driven stories emerging, not only from established newsrooms but also from grassroots. And see you at Ristorante del Sole, the restaurant with the best view on Perugia. Thank you. Have a nice day.